for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have sound system up? Okay, great. All right, good evening, everyone. Each of you received a revised agenda. The only thing that changed was Cindy noticed that she put some irregularity on the date of the meeting minutes. It was March 11th. It was really supposed to be the minutes of February 11th. That's the minor change on the agenda. May I ask, is there any changes or any things we want to amend on this agenda? Anyone have any comments or thoughts?
Motion we approve the agenda as presented,
Very good.
as amended, I guess.
As amended, yep. Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, let's move forward. Okay, the first order of business are the guest and audience comments. So I begin by kind of addressing the question that came up at our last meeting, and this is mainly for the record as the one individual is not here, but the question came as to what is the authority and the powers of the Board of Finance. And I thought it was kind of a great question because I want our board to understand really the role that we serve in working with the town and where our role fits in the overall picture. So I'm just going to read this as a response. The Board of Finance function is to consider the town's government's finance from an overall viewpoint. General statutes give the board specific responsibility for 1, preparing the town budget, 2, setting the property tax rate, 3, approving deficiency and special appropriations and transfers between appropriations, 4, determining how the town financial records are to be kept, 5, arranging for an annual audit of the town accounts, and 6, publishing the annual town report. I think the question was geared mainly regarding what powers do we have to do things such as audit and things of that nature. And when I further found out what that individual was asking, the question regarding the transfer station, we can have a conversation with the selectmen and the board to review any concerns that might happen with them. And in this instance, I have already begun a conversation to look at the working analysis of the concerns expressed by Mr. Morse, and we'll update everybody once an analysis is complete. So that's my response. Do we have any other guest or audience comments we'd like to offer before the meeting begins? Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, will your response be in the minutes?
Not only in the minutes, but also published on the website.
Thank you.
Very good. Next order of business is legislative update. It appears we had a little scheduling conflict. We were expecting to see Irene Haynes here this evening, and it looks like there was a conflict in her schedule. So we'll reach out to her again and reschedule her visit with us.
And Norman Needleman.
And according to Cindy, we have Norm visiting us, Norm Needleman, on the 25th. Regrettably, I have a conflict on that day, so maybe we'll either have somebody substitute for me on that date, or we'll invite him to come at a different time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 5, approval of the minutes. Everyone has a copy of the minutes. Well, I'll start first. Were there any issues on the minutes that anyone noticed that needed addressing?
No.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to accept the minutes as?
I
So
move
moved.
that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Very good. Correspondence. I don't believe I had any correspondence of note here that we should discuss. So we'll move forward to tax collector's report. Each of you received a copy of the tax collector's report for the month of February. Anything of note that concerned you? I only like to point out the percentage collection numbers that we're working with and how well they're going. So I'm really glad to see that progress. But are there any questions from any of the members of our board? Yes.
Denise is not here, but I believe there's a tax sale scheduled for April 30th. And I want to know, understand some of the properties have probably paid their taxes already, but I just was curious if that tax sale is still on.
I think it's in May.
I got the wrong month?
I'll verify though.
Okay, thank you.
Was that just a question you had?
That's a question I have.
So we could follow up with you on that. Were there any other questions or thoughts on this report?
No, good job.
Okay, we'll go to the subcommittee. First line is communications. Do either of our communications members want to speak on that topic?
Yes, as you probably noticed, our article hasn't been in the East Haddam News yet. We've been confirming the numbers, particularly the rate board numbers. And thank you to Tracy for advising us of the other functions of the rate board. They also provide scholarships. And in total, it's quite a sizable amount of money. And we want to just confirm that number is correct before we print it. But I can tell you it's more than what we showed you in our original draft. And I got to talk again to the vocational teacher at the high school tomorrow to get one last confirmation on the numbers. And then we'll be ready to send it to the East Haddam News. But we're very fortunate to have all those folks that put those endowments in place for us. And that's our report for now.
All right, very good. Keep up the good work with that. I see the articles published regularly, and you know, we must admit we're fortunate in our town to have a newspaper that gets the wide circulation and the attention it does. So I'm really grateful to the East Haddam News also. And thank you for your work. Let's the increasing revenue. There's no further report, Harvey. Is there anything else that we had in that area? But most of our attention has been working on the policy statements. Financial needs roundtable, I believe. I don't know that there's any change, but is there anything, Tracy, that you wanted us to know about that? Anything since last meeting? Has there been any changes?
No, we haven't done anything.
Okay. Next item of business are the financial policies. So I'll go into a brief overview on the debt management policy. So first and foremost, what we've done is we've taken the comments and observations you shared at our last meeting, and we worked on them just following the meeting, kind of scrubbed them through. So we took the comments and really thought them out. We submitted the debt policy to both our municipal advisor and to bond counsel to make sure that everything we did was legitimate, and then we were going to give it a kind of final look over and bring it to you for approval. Municipal advisor gave in a review, and frankly a very favorable review on what we provided. However, bond counsel has been away on business, and so he hasn't been able to give us the feedback. So we don't have a final debt management policy for you tonight. There's a draft floating around, and we should get that done shortly. My goal would get that approved as quickly as we can. That said, we did get a chance to work on the town of East Haddam investment policy. So you all received a copy of the investment policy, and this is our proposal to you in final form. I will point these things out, and Harvey, please join in if I miss something. First, what we did was we again took all of the thought and commentary that were provided by any of you or any of the people that reviewed it, incorporated that. We tried to clean up the language and make sure that grammatically it was correct, so we did our best there. And then as a final look, we submitted it to the treasurer, who really is the person that supervises how the town manages anything of that nature. It is not within the scope of the Board of Finance. But so we ran it through her as well, and we got her final blessing, and here you have what is our final version of it. What I'm going to ask, is there anything else about this that we should add?
No, I think you've covered it.
What I'm going to ask you to do is, you've had some chance to look it over. I'd like to approve this as our official investment policy, and we can begin utilizing it. Before I ask for the motion, I do want to point out what we're doing with this and all of the policies that we represent. We're starting these policies with the goal of, one, making our town work in a more efficient and a great manner that will continue beyond any of our terms, and which is looked favorably upon us by rating agencies. So we want to work more efficiently, and we want to do the right thing in all of this. However, one of the main things about these policies is that we do have a standing committee that will review them each year. So if something comes into this now and we later find that it may not make sense as we move forward, it'll be part of the annual review process. So the policies, if you note, somewhere on here I thought we put down adopted, effective, and revised. And our goal is to do this with each of the policies each year. So, would you like to make a motion?
Can I just, I'm sorry. I just realized something, and my apologies for being so late. So if you look at the Board of Ed policies, of which there are many, they refer back to, the state statute, which is required, or, a lot of their stuff just goes back to statute. And it's, on each policy, it's referenced on the bottom, like, it'd be on the end, the last page, just Connecticut State Statute, blah, 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 whatever. And I know that some of ours are, I don't know that all of ours are referenced back to a statute, but I realize here that on page 3, there's,
Well, while we don't specifically list them, we point out, if you look at the major conditions under this on page 1, you'll see this, the investment of town funds shall conform with federal, state, and other
Yeah.
legal requirements. Because the reason we didn't identify each of them is that it would just probably take up way more pages than we actually have.
Okay.
Because we have not only the state statutes, we have federal statutes
Oh,
and
all right,
others
yeah,
that were
yeah,
involved. So
okay.
we're always deferring to them and making sure we run.
okay,
Hopefully that's acceptable.
yeah, it's covered, so.
Were there any other questions? That's very good. Todd, did you have any other thoughts or questions?
Yes, I do have a question on the bottom of page 2. The treasurer on an annual basis shall prepare a report of previous and current positions, investment activity, and rationale for changes to the town's investment funds. Have we seen that report? I don't remember seeing that report.
That's not something that it's not, let's just put it this way. The treasurer needs to account for all of that. It's not the Board of Finance's role to really tell the treasurer to report to us.
Except in the policy.
We went through we agreed on, it was sort of a negotiated item, if you will. We spoke with the treasurer and say, would you be able to provide us with an annual report? Is that acceptable? And she said yes.
You haven't
Right?
seen
It didn't exist in the past.
Didn't exist.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, it's a great thing to do. Because for the benefit of the audience, the next sentence is, the Board of Finance will review this report for reasonableness and adherence to this policy and make recommendations to the treasurer for consideration. I think that's great.
So it doesn't exist today, it's just something that we discussed with the treasurer to try to.
Thank you very much.
Good observation. Anybody else? Any thoughts or comments, questions?
On page 4, there's a term that I wonder about, perception, section 9, internal controls. Finance director shall ensure that there are adequate internal controls. I typically use appropriate. Adequate to me seems okay.
You'd like to be better than okay. Just enough.
Adequate,
Robust?
minimal,
How about
minimal
robust?
requirements.
Robust internal
I'm
control?
not going for robust. I'm looking for appropriate.
I don't know if that's
That's
the
totally
right word or
You
not,
know what,
but
it was a bunch of us all doing
Yeah.
our own little throwing
And
here with
adequate
grammar.
may be the word that belongs there, but
Does anyone have any issue with that? Appropriate is fine, let's
that's
just
fine.
strike and change that one, that's fine. Anything else? Did you have any thoughts? Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the investment policy as amended, with that one word.
So moved.
Second,
second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion accepted unanimously. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, one down, and hopefully we'll have that debt policy, and I do want to share with you, we got a great deal of good feedback, both from some of the members of our board as to certain aspects of it, and we'll address that as we go along. I'll mention, Todd, you personally, you sent some good comments on the draft debt management statement, and I'll speak to you about some of these as well, so you can understand where we're coming from. We'll discuss those at our meeting on Friday. We're meeting again at that time. But we got some great feedback from our municipal advisor saying it's one of the best debt management policies he's seen. So we're in good shape. That's what our goal.
Great.
Okay, moving forward. Next item is First Selectmen's report. Mr. Lyman, it's all yours.
Well, on top of what I said Saturday, a few things are happening here. We've been interviewing for the building official, and we've made an offer. It's been accepted. William Trody, he's going to start work on April 8th. It'll be daylight hours now instead of morning and night, which is, I think, not been serving us very well. And he's going to commence work on April 8th. So we're going to have a new building inspector, a very impressive man with a incredible knowledge, and he was tested on it, an understanding of the building regulations. We will be tomorrow morning, 1 o'clock, I think, here interviewing for Chatham Health for a new director. And we held a first interview. This will be the second one. We'll make a decision tomorrow on a new director. Don Mitchell will be stepping down from sanitarian again and be staying with them, which will increase staff and make them a little more effective. But we will have a new director coming in shortly. We've been approached, and this is a interesting item, farm tax exemptions. Apparently, we have the opportunity at the municipalities option to abate a considerable amount of taxes on behalf of farms. And we've been asked to look into it. Section 1281, you can abate up to 50% of property taxes on a dairy, fruit orchard, vegetable farm. Actually, this one is allowed by the selectmen. They can implement it. You can either go to town meeting, the legislative body, or where they do have a legislative body and of a town meeting by a vote of the Board of Selectmen. And then the Board of Finance has to concur with that. So that's how that one comes down. But not moving forward just yet on this, but we're looking at it. 1291 is an exemption for farm machinery and with an additional exemption for farm buildings. Machinery has a limit of $100,000 worth. And the buildings has a limit of $100,000, and then there's a section there that says upon approval, we may provide an additional exemption from property tax for machinery for another $100,000. So the potential there is for $300,000 worth of items that are tax exempt for the town. So it's substantial. It'll have quite an impact on us. As I say, we're looking into it. I don't know where it's going to go, but we have been asked to take a close look at it.
When you say we, are we talking about our partners at the state level? Who
Oh, no, this
or
is at a
citizens?
town level,
Citizens are looking for us to do that?
yes.
And
In particular, Staley Farms.
in those instances, is that a partnership with the state? Does the state help us? So when they're looking at doing something of that sort?
This is strictly a tax exemption that the town can grant.
Gotcha.
And we have to do so through town meeting. Not going to happen right away, but it is on the horizon.
And do you have a potential number that might reduce the grand list by and the financial impact of
wanted to
who else
get
might
out-
apply?
I was going to go down and talk to Loretta to find out just what the property value was there. She was in Chester today, so I wasn't able to do that. But beyond the property itself, it looks like there's about a $300,000 potential limit of non-taxable items.
But we have more than
But
one
that's one
farm.
farm.
Yeah.
And we have more than one farm. We have
farm.
several farms.
We do.
And it might boil down to 2 or 3 of us left paying taxes. And it keeps going. But it is there. Beyond that, Kristen Brown, who works for Deep, is in the area, and we've been talking to her, and we're going to be getting together, trying to put together a program. We're going to the pay-as-you-throw program, the bags. And once again, we went back to our lawyer, Rich Roberts, and asked him to look at that and just how do you do that? And his assessment was that's a fee. Under the existing ordinances, we can impose a fee at the transfer station. Now, in connection with that is the haulers who have indicated that should we go to the bag system, they would stop bringing their material to the transfer station. That requires going to town meeting because they're permitted through ordinance. And we need a town meeting to change an ordinance. So it's gonna get a little more involved if it actually comes down to that in the end. So there's a process, but we're moving down on that.
So you want to change the ordinance that says they can't come anymore?
Well, we would have to, I think. I mean, they volunteered that they would not come anymore, but the ordinance still would permit them to.
Okay,
And quite a large section of the ordinance is devoted to the haulers and their relationship to the town. So we would be looking to change that through town meeting eventually.
okay.
And that's, we'd have to draw up a whole new ordinance.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask a question? Those of us who are clients of one of our haulers received a letter which was well-written but cast some doubt on that hauler's commitment to the suggestions that have been proposed. I assume you're aware of that letter,
I have that letter.
and I assume that conversations will be held.
Conversations are gonna be going forth.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the manner in which it was understood we were gonna go forward was the bags cost. If the haulers, once we adopt a bag program, anything going into the hopper has to be in a bag. You have to buy the bags. My recommendation, you got a 15-gallon bag, which is what you put under your sink, small bag. You've got a 30, which is quite a bit bigger, and a 45, which is quite a bit bigger. What I'm gonna recommend is $1, $2, and $3 for those bags. My guess is that the average household who's doing proper recycling would probably generate a bag a week, $50 a year in cost. The thought on the haulers was, and I'm gonna have to talk to them about where they are today, that by imposing that fee on it, that would change the whole dynamics, and they could afford now to pay for tipping charges by raising their fees commensurate with that. The whole idea of the fee is not so much to generate cash, although it will, as to force people to recycle, to get them into it. And we have proposals coming forth right now. Here we go. At the legislature, solid waste management and recycling, it's a big deal on a state level.
I was just there.
House Bill 7295, waste management goals, requires municipalities to significantly limit residential safe solid waste to disposal to not more than 700 pounds per capita by 1/1/22 and no more than 500 pounds per capita by 1/1/24. Could lead to higher municipal fees. More Duncan McGarge cost at this moment is opposing that bill. But this is the kind of movement we're seeing within the state. Disposing of waste is becoming incredibly difficult. The landfills are filling up. They're not available anymore. There's fewer and fewer all the time. No one quite knows what we're going to do with it, and we have to get a grip on it. And the state is moving in that direction. That's why Kristen Brown is involved. She's been hired by the state to help towns begin to move in a better direction. I've said it before, I'll repeat it again. We generate 4,000 tons right now of waste. 1,000 is recycled. State is looking for 50 to 60% within the next few years. And they're going to start finding ways to force us to do that. The bag system is one mechanism for getting people to do it. There's a very active composting program that is starting to be developed, and a lot of what we generate that goes into the waste stream could be composted. So the state is looking for and supportive of composting. And out of, we call it the hardware store down in Saybrook, feed store, Tractor Supply. They're going to be offering composting bins for $54 starting shortly. This is something that COG put together Now, most of the COG members are with Mira, we're with Willimantic Waste, but those are still available to us. The idea that we can compost stuff, I feed most of mine to my chickens, so I get rid of it and it doesn't go into the waste stream. But there are alternatives. But this is a big deal. This is going to be moving forward, and I think we need to be on board. Lastly, working with FEMA, they're in the town. They'll be in the town for the next 3 days. Beth is going to be working with them. They're going out and surveying all of the projects we have that we're looking to get reimbursement for. And she is working incredibly hard right now, putting in long hours. She's got this on top of everything else she has to do. So the restoration of the town, the rebuilding of the portions damaged back in September should be getting underway quite quickly. And all the roads are open with the exception of Ackley, Hemlock Valley, and Neptune. And we're going to be looking to get those open as quickly as we can.
Okay, let's start. Tracy, do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, I have a few questions. First and foremost, by the transfer station going to a different system, seems to me that the goalposts are moving around here because I keep reading in the literature, in the newspaper, the news, that recycling is going to be expensive because we had a source to sell our recycled materials to. We don't have that anymore, and it's going to take quite a while, I think, for the industry in the United States to get around to the same kind of capacity. So we may be recycling to the waste dump or the burn pile, and that's one question I have. The other question I have is, being a Board of Finance member, I'm concerned about costs. The average East Haddam resident today pays X amount of dollars to cover the $600,000 cost of the transfer station. And, okay, so that's some money outlaid. And now, instead of having our general fund tax dollars go pay for the transfer station, we're gonna have the bag system pay for the transfer station. So what is that gonna cost an average resident to dispose of these bags, either by bags directly out of their own vehicle or their own selves, or carried there or taken away by the haulers? It all comes down to a fair price for a fair job. And right now, frankly, it's not clear in my head how much it's going to cost me, never mind the average resident in East Haddam. I think that needs to be made abundantly clear. What's the cost increase or decrease? I think people in general will see recycling as a no-brainer. It's good to recycle. It takes discipline, it takes a little bit of work, and it takes a little investment, but it's good to do. But right now, frankly, I don't see any benefit in recycling because the system isn't ready for it. We have to have a major sea change in this country to get back into recycling. So meanwhile, I think in the short term, things are going to cost a lot of money. But even when we get to a recycling system that works, say, 3 or 4 years from now, what is the cost going to be to the average resident in East Haddam and to the town? Because I think the town still probably got to pay a little bit of money here. So it's not clear to me, Emmett, how that's all happening.
Okay.
And if it's not clear to me, the average folk out there is going to have the same questions, I suspect.
Can I respond a little bit to that?
Yes.
If we recycled 50% right now, we could easily do that if people just paid attention. We'd save $75,000 right off the top. Cost us $70 a ton for that 1,000 tons that should be recycled out of the 4. We're doing 1, we should be doing 2. That is costing us $70,000 just for that 1,000 pounds. We would also get $5 a ton if we recycled it. So the net would be $75,000 in our pocket. All we did was just recycle as we should.
But I'm hearing Willimantic's going to charge, or the others, they're going to charge $40 instead of paying $5. They're going to charge us $40 a ton.
They will charge us for that's still $30,000 less than the 70. So there is a savings, a significant savings there. If this all comes together, and we have to go to town meeting, and I don't know, I can't predict what's going to happen there. If we don't have the haulers, we're going to substantially reduce the amount of material. Those 3 units that we have for recyclables right now, we would probably use one of those, get rid of the hopper, and that hopper is in deep trouble. It's gonna cost us a fortune to either rebuild it or keep it functioning as it is. At least $80,000 right off the top, because the ram has to be replaced.
So Todd, I just wanna kind of interject here. Even if recyclables, because I've been reading the same articles, even if recyclables bring in no revenue, the haulers now will not be bringing their trash through our system, so that's money
Once
that
again,
we
that's
will
town
be.
meeting to make that determination.
Well, that's the deal that you're proposing.
Yeah, that's what.
If they
what-
accept that deal, then it'll be less, and they're doing it on the premise that the inconvenience of buying the bags and all the rest will give them new business, which hopefully will.
Yeah, with them doing their own tipping, their clients don't have to buy bags. That's their business.
So now we've eliminated a lot of the requirement that we
So
have as a
we've made it a
town.
little more costly to come to ours. That balances out for the haulers. So they'll, I think, potentially have more clients. And that's what they're counting on. That's the goal. I think it's a win-win situation for the town, for everyone. As far as the recyclable materials, yes, they're warehousing them right now. Glass is going down to South Carolina. Plastic used to go to China. China did their national sword policy, said it's gotta be 97.5% clean or we don't want it. Nothing is that clean. So nothing is going to China now. They were the single largest, by far, market for the recyclables. What is happening is we're already seeing the development of mills or plants to take the plastics and convert them into pellets, which the Chinese would be happy to take. So what we're gonna do is take it, modify it, and then ship it out in a form that they will accept. Probably charge a little bit for that, hopefully make some money in the process. But we're already seeing that. We're already seeing paper mills coming back online, many of which are being purchased by the Chinese.
And that's all
American
interesting
paper mills,
dynamic.
where they can recycle the cardboard and the paper. So this is already starting to work. It's starting to come together. The thing is, it's going to go right through the roof in terms of cost if we don't do anything. And that's a fact. We're running out of landfills and we're doing it fast. So stuff has to go somewhere.
Did you have any other questions, Tom?
Yeah, I just want to be clear, I'm not advocating doing nothing. I'm
Oh, no.
a very proactive guy, that's
We're
the way I
looking
am.
for the best
Yeah,
answer.
but I'm just, when do you expect, another question I have, is when do you expect to go to the town with
We're
this?
going to be starting very shortly. What Kristen is recommending, and she's done this all over the state, to small groups, senior center, to scouts, to whatever. I've got to get Pete Gobert involved. He's always been very green and very supportive. Then we're going to go to some town forums, present this. I've already done a series of articles in the newspaper. We're going to get those online, get them posted, and move forward with it. And ultimately, it's the town's decision, what they want to do. They own the town. We can offer what we feel are the best suggestions. In the end, they have to make a decision about what they want to do.
Any other questions, Tom?
Thank you, I'm done.
Okay.
I asked mine earlier, thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I suppose I could, if I thought for a minute, could put this in the form of a question, but I'll put it in the form of a thought. Part of what has to be done is to, in effect, convince the citizens that this is the better of the alternatives. In order to do that, it would seem that a fairly brief boom, 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 this is what's gonna this is what we're proposing, write up, and following Todd's thought, and this is the financial impact on the town budget. And then, and if you do this, this will be the impact on you, your household. If you do use the hauler, this will be your impact. And if we don't do anything, this is the projected impact over time.
Much of that is already in those 3 articles I wrote.
Well,
We're gonna glean it out and then have what needs to be,
no, I'm just,
but it has to be timely. And, it's taken a little longer than I had hoped to get moving forward. So I didn't wanna put that together right away.
Anything else, Harvey?
no.
Thank you, Emmett.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, next item is Finance Director report. So,
I'm realizing in my haste Saturday morning before your budget meeting and trying to get you a packet, I printed you last February's budget report. So I will bring you this February's budget report on Saturday. I'm looking at it going, those numbers don't look proper. So I will be happy to provide it to you again this Saturday, the correct year.
That's 2019, you just typed the wrong thing on it?
The next page says the right year,
The next page,
just the top page says the wrong year.
okay, then I gave you all a good report and I didn't take one myself.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
That's
got
even
19
better.
Yeah.
And then let me take.
Do you want to
walk you
review
through
this
it.
to make sure this is the
Wait,
correct one?
though.
No, the headers, she's right.
Only
Oh,
thing
the
that's
header,
changed-
yeah.
That's the only thing that's changed.
I was sure.
Oh, right,
we're
okay.
good. So the budget report, thank you, is, there's nothing really of concern at this point. I can tell you that as you move through the budget, before we go to public hearing and you vote on your budget, I will have a year-end forecast for you. So we'll include what the concerns with the transfer station because we didn't purchase the truck and any impact from the state. So you will get, and I'm glad, I know what happened, I was one short and I went and printed it, I printed myself the wrong one. So you will get an update of that and get a full year-end forecast, which will also guide you in your budget making, and we're also required by state statute to provide that to the citizens at town meeting. Our projected expenditures and revenues are for June 30th. But overall, things are tracking well, there's no real concerns. Receiving our money from the state, et cetera.
Start on this side. Harvey, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
How about you, Bruce?
No.
Do not.
John?
I have a couple of questions. Well, I noticed the municipal office complex, central services, that's a considerable increase in budget versus what it was the year before. I think that's because you're coming up to speed on using this building.
Correct?
The electric probably, right?
Yes.
And
Was
that's,
that the only item, though? I know that was one piece, but were there other expenses that were allocated here that weren't allocated in the separate places? Didn't you
One
group
thing
them
we
also?
did do last year, we took from town garage all the cleaning services, and what you're gonna see in your 19-20 budget is we've then taken all the supplies as well. We're trying to put things, and as we go through the budget on Saturday, you'll see we're trying to put things in better categories. So for the town office building, we had the shift from the former town office building, central services, to what we have now. So that the electricity is a key component, as well as the cleaning services, et cetera.
Continue, Todd, I'm sorry.
so is it really a $27,000 increase in electricity, or is that coming from somewhere else because of the billing?
It's 30,000 in electricity we're
30,000,
forecasting.
yikes.
Increase or total?
In next year's budget, you'll see $30,000. We guessed or estimated the best of our ability last year, and we're quite surprised. And Emmett and Linda and Ron really looked at the electricity, but you see a $30,000 increase for next year for electricity.
Was Board of Ed paying their own electricity over there?
They were, but it was minimal. And we don't bill the Board of Ed for rent and electricity.
I was just
thing. I do
wondering if
that
that was one of the things, if it was a, if it was a net lease, then it didn't show up, and then you kind of like, oh, right. I
No,
forgot.
no, we base all the costs on the building based on estimations and the information we were provided. So,
Hey,
I look at the motors real
Nobody
hard,
want-
maybe some.
nobody wants
motors-
to look at my electric bill, so I get it.
oh, mine too.
It could be something as the motors are wired incorrectly. They'll still work, but they'll consume a tremendous amount of electricity. But anyway, I won't be an electrical engineer tonight. I'll just be a bookkeeper. Top of page 2, transfer station. I noticed we're running about 12% ahead of our budget, so it ends up we'll be a month and a half short.
when I give you your year-end forecast, I will be able to provide you with that detail. I'm preparing it now. So you'll have, with your budget, as you move through the process, you'll have my June 30th projections. So yes, we will go over budget in that item.
Okay, and the bottom of the page, the September 2018 storm damage, $197,000. Where's that money coming from to pay that bill?
Right now, we are just paying the bills because we have FEMA. You had authorized Beth to take from capital if she needed to, but I'm trying not to just charge it to capital. I'm trying to keep those costs segregated and clean as we submit to FEMA. So we expect some FEMA reimbursements. We've begun the process for some things that are done, so we'll keep you informed. There is money, you've authorized Beth to use money in capital, but again, I'm just trying to keep those costs segregated and not mixed
Coming from
in.
the unassigned fund balance,
Right.
essentially.
That's,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Top of page 3, under revenues, property taxes, year-to-date actual is 25,442,403. But I noticed in the tax collections, it's reading for the month ending February, 25,247,034. So the difference there, I didn't quite understand that.
She's probably including interest and penalties as well,
Oh, that could be.
but I will verify.
The other way around.
She's got 25247. I will verify with her.
Okay, thank you.
But as you're on that page to look at, and since she's hired the collection agency to look at suspense, our budget was 1,200 and she's collected 15,000. Now that she's using the collection agency.
That's good. Okay, the other question I had, let's see here. Under, okay, page 7 of 9, under public safety, ambulance replacement, revised budget 200,000. Is that for 1 or 2 ambulances?
That's for one. And we budgeted it for it. They're probably not, you'll hear as you go through, they're not going to be purchasing it right away, but it takes so long to purchase an ambulance. We put it in last year's budget, and the budget will continue to roll forward till they do it. Last year, it took us over 2 years to do the ambulance. So this way, it gets it in the budget, and as they move forward, it's there and ready to go.
Wow, I wonder why it takes so long. Going to page 8 of 9, under recreation and leisure, number C0054, Rathman Free Public Library oil burner upgrade, $42,000?
You wait till you take a look at your capital budget. I believe it adds to that, but we can, that's not completed. We have quotations. We can review that in capital on Saturday and show you the different components.
Well, I'd love to see it, man, because, wow. I was surprised at that, but I'm not an expert. Now, going down a little bit to C0143, Municipal Office Complex Gym, 12.5. First year of savings to purchase. Are these the bleachers?
No, this is for the adjustable backs, so.
Oh, that's right. Oh, okay.
So you'll see 12.5 in the 1920 budget as well. And I
Okay.
can see my, with the PDF, I have some junk in there. I'll have to fix that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you said that last month and I forgot. I just can't remember all
It's
this
all
stuff. Now, question for you, under education, elementary school, underground oil tank removal replacement. You saved quite a bit of money there. That's great, thank you very much.
And that was coming from reserves, so that savings is what's paying for contributing to paying for the high school roof.
Okay, that was you read my mind. With that savings is going to the roof. Stays in education, going to the
Correct.
roof. Okay, that's what I was looking for, and thank you very much.
All set? Tracy, anything?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Oh,
Liaison reports. So this is that time of year when you've either had contact with your respective liaisons, or you will be as a result of the budgeting process. Are there any that you want to share with us this evening?
No.
Nothing yet, no.
No, Board of Ed meets again tomorrow night. Some minor things on the budget, but nothing that would impact the Board of Finance.
Tom?
Or on the agenda, not the budget, minor things on the agenda that would.
Yeah.
contact us.
I have nothing to report, but I know that my groups have already provided input to the budget for next year.
Very good. And Tracy?
Nope, all set.
Okay, great. Old business? I don't have anything under old business. New business, we have appointment of the auditor, so I'll read my statement. So the Board of Finance is required to appoint an auditor each year and notify Connecticut's Office of Policy and Management of their selection. We issued an RFP for audit services, and the board selected Bloom Shapiro as the audit firm on February 8th of 2016. There's a 3-year contract term with an option to renew for 2 additional times at the end of the 3 years. This would be the first renewal. The fee for the June 30, 2019 audit is $41,300, and this represents an increase of 1.8% or $725. Before I ask for a motion, is there any questions on this at all?
We've had Bloom Shapiro for some time now. How many years? I mean, not to pin you down, but roughly.
There was a firm called Scully and Wolf that then merged with Bloom Shapiro, so there was Scully and Wolf and then Bloom Shapiro. I don't know if they had any other name changes in there.
Okay, but this is going on a decade.
At least.
It makes sense from time to time to engage a different auditing firm because they look at it with a different set of eyes and they're not just running on autopilot. And I have no reason to think they're not doing a good job, but we might think about putting this out again with the goal of selecting someone who hasn't done the job in the
Just
recent
to
past.
clarify, we can't put out a bid with a goal of not selecting our current vendor.
Right.
We can't prejudice to that extent,
But,
just
Yeah.
to be clear.
Right.
But we do put it out to bid every 5 years.
okay,
So the last time we put it out to bid was when?
It was
3
in
years
here,
ago.
yeah.
2016, okay.
So, and I appreciate what you're saying, and the people who come to do the audit, the younger, I feel very old when they come. You look at them like, are you 12? They change frequently. So the people who are actually here conducting the audit, they have management, but they change frequently.
Okay.
They look younger every year.
Did you have anything else?
no.
Did you have any other questions or thoughts?
No.
Done. Thank you.
Yes, I do. Harvey makes a good point. It's 2 things to an audit. One is the people doing the audit, the other is the process they use. And even though the same company uses different people, they have their favorite processes for audits. As you may recall, they do not look at everything, they test, they sample, and companies at different sampling rates. And audits are kind of a general thing, whether you're auditing the financial books of a town, or auditing the inspection of parts in an industry, being manufactured for cars or aircraft. So I fully support Harvey's point that it's good to change auditors. It's also good for the auditor themselves because they get to learn too. Auditing is a learning process. It's not supposed to be a penal process, although it can be if they find some major mistakes. But I fully support that we broadcast and advertise at the appropriate time to see who's out there who can also do the audit for us at the same price, or I can't name a price, but at a reasonable price. But I think it's good to look and cast out the net to see who else can be our auditor for a while. It's good practice.
Just
That's what industry does too.
3 years ago, I think the nearest other firm was $10,000 higher. just to clarify on that. And we had, I think, 4 or 5 respondents. I'd have to double check.
Got anything else?
I just want to emphasize that that's what industry does. They don't rely on the same auditor year after year because they want fresh eyes on the job. It's for the benefit of the company being audited, frankly. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Tracy?
I don't really care. There's no cost to us to go out to bid, right? I mean,
Just the work that I have to do and the publication. If you're kind of late in the game to put it out to bid this year. We couldn't release it and secure it and be done for this year.
So with that
So-
said, and all the, did you
What
want
is
to
our-
open any other things? I'd like to address this motion. We could bring a discussion on here. Would someone like to make the motion?
So is this is for 1 year then, this renewal?
That's for 1 year, and that's the town and the Board of Ed.
Okay.
That's the full fee, and the Board of Ed shares in part of that.
Well, I guess excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Would someone
go
like to make the motion to appoint Blue Shapiro as the town of East Haddam auditor from July 1st to June 30th of
I got it.
19?
So moved.
Who would second that?
I would second.
Discussion. All right, now we can go through that again. Any further comments that you want to make? We've heard, all right, go on.
I need to be clear. We are in a position where we can't go out to bid at this time.
With budget,
Can.
if we were to put it out to bid, we have to give at least a month turnaround and interview and secure. I have tentatively, based on your vote, I have pre-audit coming in 60 days. They're out here before June 30th, doing a lot of preliminary work.
So if, and to follow up with his question, if the board wanted to change auditors, when will be the appropriate time to, for us to
In
look
the
at
past,
that?
when we put it out to bid, we put it out in the fall. As soon as the current auditor's done, we put the bid out. So we put it out usually end of November, beginning of December, and make a selection by February.
So thinking out loud, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can I speak?
Please.
Thinking out loud, I guess I would support the passing of this motion at this time, but I'd like the board to make a motion, so we don't forget about it, that we put the audit job out to bid in the appropriate time next fall. So it gives us plenty of time.
So here's what I'm gonna do on that. We still have a motion on the floor, but his comment is he'd like us to look at this in the fall. And my guidance to you is we will put this on the agenda in the fall.
Absolutely.
All right, so would that satisfy you?
That's it, thank you. I'll be here, you'll be here, thank you.
All right. Okay, any
It all
other,
depends
any other
on the
comments?
voters.
Well, that's true, I forgot about that.
Are there any other questions or thoughts on this for discussion? Tracy, anything?
I'm good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, we've now come full circle. I'd like to open up the floor to any guest or audience comments, if there are any. Invite you to go first. Yes, please.
Jay Moreau, 510 Mount Parnassus Road. In listening tonight, the discussion about the tax abatement for farms, farm equipment, orchards, machinery, et cetera. As a resident of East Haddam, I would fully support that type of abatement. I've opted in for the property sales tax that the state has offered to support open space. And we, in the past, have purchased open space, which takes it off our tax rolls. We're in a little town, we have farms. I would support an abatement for our farms. They provide employment for our youngsters and beyond. They provide entertainment and outdoor opportunities for our residents. And I would fully support an abatement in their favor. A comment on the ambulance purchase. The reason for, in my experience, for the time delay in the purchase of an ambulance is once you put a committee together to spec out an ambulance, everybody has their own thoughts about what they want. We want a four-wheel drive ambulance, we want a 10-foot body, we want a diesel engine, gas engine. Long, complicated process, and they have to put it out to the companies who build the ambulances, and that's the reason for the long turnaround time on the last ambulance, which will lead to the next turnaround time on this ambulance. And that's really based on the people that operate the ambulance, the things that they want and desire to help with patient care. Another thing, I want to thank the board for all their work during the budget season, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Finance Director. Apologize that I could not be here Saturday to comment. I did sit through all of the Board of Selectmen's budget workshops, and in my notes from that, I hope I could share with you now whether it makes a difference or not. My one concern is the capital expenditure for the fire department. They're looking to increase capital reserves by $30,000 a year to save for the next fire truck, and also to replace the boiler at Station 2. Boiler, that was on the agenda during the building renovation, that all of us approved the initial $500,000 building renovation at Company 2. It was deemed adequate, and now we need to save for the next one. In essence, we're paying for that twice. The increase for the next fire truck purchase, which we took an extra $104,000 out of capital reserves for the renovation because it said the next fire truck would cost less. This board, along with the Board of Selectmen, approved that. Nothing in emergency service costs less going forward. So now they want more money in capital reserves for the next fire truck. So we're paying twice for that fire truck as well. So as we move forward in this budget season, I would say let's either refurb the next engine that needs to be purchased. Consider if we need 3 engines in town, or what did we really approve the last time when we said we didn't need that $100,000 for the next fire truck? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
We're all on tight dollars, and I don't want to see my taxes go up any more than it needs. And yet, I fully support our fire department, but it's not everything we want versus everything we need anymore. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Oh. Yes, sir.
Rob Smith, Boardman Road. Item 9B, budget calendar update. Some people may not know that there were some changes and things.
I appreciate that. That was my error. I've been glancing over that. Would you mind sharing with us any
We
of the changes?
posted the
that we
changes
did?
on the website so that the Board of Selectmen
Thank
and
you.
Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen and Board of Ed made their presentations on Saturday, and then there's no presentations tonight. But one of the things, thank you, Rob, I had made a note of, especially if you have a conflict on the 25th, perhaps if you all could bring your calendars on Saturday and we can set up some backup dates for additional meetings. I think you might need them. Instead of getting down to the wire, if we can get them on our calendar sooner rather than later, and then I'll update the budget calendar and get it back on the website.
What's our, I was looking at it today, what's our drop dead date?
End of the month.
The end of the month, okay.
So to add to this, I want to make sure everybody understands the scope of our process. We talked about it somewhat Saturday. Today, however, just want to reiterate it. So Saturday was really the time and opportunity for us to hear from the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen and to receive the budgets and to have a chance to review them. It's really going to be this coming Saturday that the in-depth workshop begins. Originally, I was trying to work through this to try to figure out the most effective approach. And I found myself saying, I don't want to fill the audience with people that sit around all day waiting to brief us. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And so my idea changed to be, we're going to go through each of the respective budgets without asking people to come present. so we could really get into the weeds, and that's what we'll do on Saturday. That will trigger a number of questions or issues that require us to invite then members of the respective departments within the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Education to come following that. My view there is that we can haggle through all these numbers. We're gonna create a number of questions. They may be here present to address them, but we're not inviting them until the follow-on meeting, and that's when we'll cover that. So I really wanna be able to look at these numbers, look at the alternatives, develop some serious critique or questions, and then try to see where we are. We have a lot of work. Without question, when we look at the budget that was presented, it's really outside of the scope of what I think is going to be acceptable at first run. So we have to really go in and look at it and try to do our best to make it, as we did last year, an acceptable budget that will be passed at the first time on referendum. Any questions? before
And
we-
so, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock in this room.
Yes, sir. Start at 9, and we'll just start going through the budgets, and you'll kind of lead us through it, if you will.
I can walk you through the sections and reserves, and capital and how things, reserves is a critical piece on how we set aside monies, what the rationale is behind the revenues, capital, what the selectmen changes made and why they made them. So we can really give you a grasp of what's going on, because there's a lot of detail.
And you know, as it turned out, there were a number of citizens attending on Saturday because they thought right away we're raising taxes 7%. Part of that was some capital stuff, and it was just misunderstood the way it was presented in the East Haddam News, but we have the monies to offset some of those increased expenditures, so we're not raising taxes 7% on the first run. I can assure you of that. Not a popular thing. Anything else? Anything under other? I'll start with Greg.
Bill, so that's Saturday, and we're still on for Thursday, the 21st, and Monday, the 25th, correct?
Correct, except I have a conflict on the 25th. I have to travel.
So if we can come with
And I'm
other,
not here the 21st.
okay. And I'll try to get a list of rooms from Linda, so that if you all say you can be there, we have a place to meet.
All right, so we'll hone down that schedule on Saturday. We'll bring our calendars on Saturday. Good. Todd, did you want to?
Yes, Saturday. I'll bring lunch, but do I need to bring supper? When do you suspect we'll be done?
I will have coffee and.
Bring drinks.
We'll have continental breakfast and lunch for you.
We're ordering steak dinners, by the way.
No.
Well, then we could stay through dinner.
What Bloomfield did, we'll order from Max downtown, $80 burgers.
But look what happened.
Mid-afternoon,
Yeah, ideally, yes.
okay.
That was a joke.
Yes.
Todd.
He asked my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would have to be leaving by 2.
My goal.
Or we would say anything of any substance after 2 o'clock. How's
I'll take
that?
notes, yeah.
I got one final point. It's kind of a special day today, and we've got a little bit of a cake down and back to help celebrate. It's a gentleman amongst us who is enjoying, I think enjoying, another birthday.
That's it.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday, Bill.
Oh, thank you.
You'll all join us. We've got some cake, and
Oh, wow. That was very good.
I was gonna bring wine and beer, but
You have to get permission.
Thank you so much. Tracy, are you all set?
I'm good.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And would you turn off our power?
Oh.
And thank you for that. That's very kind.
Brendan,
I make